The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the third installment of the three-part webinar series in the 5 Ds of successful design, build, sales. My name is Joe Salemi. I'm with Dynascape Software. I just want to go through a little bit of the housekeeping with you and how we're going to handle today. We are recording the webinar so that if you can't stay with us for the whole webinar or can't join us for it, you'll be able to view it later. And we will send out the link to everyone just as we have been doing once we post it to our website a few hours after the webinar. If you have any questions for Jody or for Marisa Palmieri from Landscape Management Magazine or myself, please type those in the questions box, and we'll try our best to answer those questions. At the end of the webinar, we'll try to get to about 2 or 3 questions. And for those questions that we don't get to, Jody will certainly do his best to get to those, and we'll send the answers to those at the end of the webinar. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Marisa to introduce Jody.
Thank you, Joe, and hello everybody out there listening and participating in this 3-part webinar series. We're really happy to be partnering with Dynascape and Jody Shilan on the 5 Ds webinars. As you hopefully know by now, Jody is an award-winning landscape designer and design-build contractor who sold millions of dollars of installation work using a simple, unique, and highly successful design-build sales process that's incredibly easy to learn. These processes are based on hands-on experience working for himself, as well as some of the most successful design-build companies in New Jersey. Today, Jody uses his 35 years of experience to teach other professionals how to dramatically increase their sales by following the same process. He does so through private consulting, public speaking, group workshops, and his exclusive members-only website, FromDesignToBuild.com. Jody is currently the Executive Director of the New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association, a Planet Trailblazer, and Landscape Ontario Preferred Consultant. And Jody's Q&A column, Profiting from Design, is featured in Landscape Management, and it recently won first place from the Turf and Ornamental Communicators Association. Last year, Jody created and is the host of Landscape Live, an internet radio show specifically for the landscape professional. You can listen to Landscape Live on the air every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8, or you can listen to the archive versions afterward. For more information on any of this, visit FromDesignToBuild.com, and you can also look into becoming a member. So with that, we welcome Jody to kick off the third and final webinar in the series.
Okay, Marisa, thank you very much. Joe, thank you very much, and welcome to everybody who's listening today. Let me just get set up here. Just have to set up the whole webinar. Okay. So thank you all for joining me. I'm sure it's cold where you are, or most of you are. It's very cold here as well. It's been an unbelievable winter. So what we're going to talk about today is, as Marisa said, this is the third part of the webinar series. We're going to be talking about preparing for the perfect presentation. So what I'm going to do is go through some of the steps, just do a brief overview of some of the steps from the first 2 webinars, and then bring us current to where we're going to actually do the presentation, which is typically done at people's homes, usually at their kitchen table or dining room table. So why don't we get started with part 3. I have a couple of slides here, just to kind of set the tone for all this, and to remind everybody that this is a design build. It's not design doing everything for free, trying to appease the customer, helping them with every single decision before they become a customer. So I have things listed here. It's design, not design run around doing free estimates, giving guided tours, et cetera, et cetera. All those things you should be doing once they become a client of yours, and then you should really be servicing them well. But until then, until there's a signed contract for the design or a signed contract for the installation, you really are still working and not sure what the relationship is. Okay, so all these things we want to do later on. Just another slide and a little trade secret types of things out of my website is that, as the slide says, more than 50% of the contractors, when asked for a card, don't have one on them. This is a very simple thing to do, and it's so often overlooked. When a homeowner will stop by, you're working on a job, they ask you for a card, you check all over the place, you don't have one, or the one you have is dirty, or it has notes written on the back. So just a side note to all of this, make sure you have business cards, make sure they're in your truck, in your wallet, wherever you go, because once that potential sale goes away, you don't have another chance after that. Okay, so carry your business cards. All right, so we're going to talk about preparing for the perfect presentation. All right, so like I said, when it comes to the presentations, most of us are doing them at our clients' homes. Some of the bigger companies have design centers or offices where they bring the clients in, but the bulk of the industry does not have this luxury. So you need to really think about what's going on. The fact that you're in somebody's home where the kids are crying, dogs are barking, the phone's ringing, because you're at somebody's home. All right, so we have to respect that on a lot of different levels and understand that these things are going to happen, and not get frustrated or not get annoyed or not roll our eyes when one of the children wants something to eat, or change the channel on the TV. So this is all part of it. If you have children, it clearly makes everything much easier. If you don't, just understand that it's probably a little stressful for your clients, but you are in their home, and you need to be very respectful of that. So we're going to let me just spend a few minutes doing an overview so we can bring you up to speed. If you haven't heard the other webinars, you should listen to them because there's a lot more detail, but I'd like everyone just to see the whole process here. So the 5 Ds would develop the program, determine the priority, discuss the budget, design the dream, and today we're going to talk about doing the deal. And in reality, if you followed all the steps and done everything the way that I laid it out, that doing the deal or getting the signed contract is not really a big deal at all. It's just another step in the process. So it's not going to be where they're wondering how much everything's going to cost or what you're going to be doing for that money, because all of that's been laid out beforehand. So when you're meeting with your clients to sign the proposal, they know what phase 1 was because you've already discussed that. They gave you a budget number that they wanted you to work with, so your contract's going to come in or around that number, and then you're going to show them the overall master plan that shows all the bells and whistles, all the things they wanted to get them excited about the overall project, but we're still only going to focus on the first phase within the budget that they wanted to spend. We talked about selling landscape design services and how important that is to this entire process and your business. You should not be doing free plans. You should be selling plans to your clients, and you should be producing drawings that are very attractive and in color. We talked about how long it takes to do a plan, that it's not 15 minutes or an hour or a couple of hours like we tell ourselves or we tell the owners of the company. We laid out how long it really does take, just on an average project. So if you're doing plans for free, you're spending minimum 15 hours taking it, from the design, site analysis, design, revisions, etc. This is money that, unless it's accounted for in overhead, which it probably isn't, this is where you're wasting a lot of time, and this is why so many contractors are stressed out and can't get to their customers and can't, really make the sales that they want to for the year. So we walked through the 5 Ds. So the first one is develop the program, where we want to get their ideas. We want to hear all of their ideas. We want to walk around with them around their property, and we want to also make sure we've qualified these clients before we came out there. We talked about determining the priority. So although we have all their ideas and what their fantasy or dream plan is, which is great, chances are it's going to be much more money than they want to spend at one time, and that's fine. So what we do is we talk about and get them to decide what their first priority is, what project is phase one, what they want to work on. And we're not going to get caught with just price everything up and then we'll tell you what we want to work on. That's not the way to do it. Get them to decide on the phase that they want to do. They both agree on it, and then you go to the next step, which is discussing the budget. And you know, as it says on the slide, and some of the questions that I got after the last webinar is that, you know, how do you get a budget number from a client? You know, most of the time they don't want to tell you, and that's exactly true. They have reasons, they have excuses, but if somebody tells you they don't have a budget, it's not true. They have a number in their head. So what we need to do is just get that number from them, and there's various techniques to do it. You know, asking them for a budget range or giving them a budget range. You can let them know that you've done similar projects as theirs, and then give a very broad price range for it. But you need to make that part of your presentation and not leave without a budget, because this process doesn't work, nor does any process work if you don't know how much they want to invest. Even if it's a low number, that's fine. It's a number to work with. And then we talked about designing the dream. So here's the drawing with everything: swimming pool, lawn areas, patio spaces, plantings, as much detail as information as you want to get on the drawing. But what I recommend in the Unbiddable Master Plan was to show a really nice layout without a lot of details on the plan, except for the names of generic names of the plants. So this is a great example. My plans are similar to this, only you would have, you know, say down at the bottom of the screen where there's the blue conifers, that they would be labeled blue spruce, and that's the amount of detail. Or write the word pool in the swimming pool, or steps by the pool steps. Just little notes that don't give a lot of definition, but at least help the customer understand. You know, if they're not used to reading drawings like this, it helps them understand what they're getting. You know, the stepstones to the right of the screen. You know, and any little pieces of information, but not too much. You want to keep it conceptual. We talked about the design fee proposal, and the one that I use. And if you haven't downloaded it, make sure you go to my website. Once you enter your email address, you'll have all the documents that I've been talking about in this website. In this webinar series, and I think a couple more. So this is a great design proposal. If you have one that you use, that's great. If you want to copy this and use it, that's great. But the main point is make sure that you're getting a design fee from the client. We talked about also proposal writing, and using the terms as per plan in our descriptions in our proposal. So because we still, as much as there's a 90–95% chance that you're going to get the installation work, there's still the opportunity for the clients to take your plan and proposal and give it to another contractor. So we talked about that. We want to make that as difficult as possible for the other contractor to price up our plan and proposal. And then also we discussed how to structure the proposal that you structured in the order of the installation process. And the point of that was to keep the presentation very organized, to keep your proposal organized, to help you go through the proposal step by step and not confuse yourself and not confuse your clients. And we talked about how to make those into proposal templates. I showed you examples of, or discussed examples of, how I lay out my proposals, where I talk about the process, not about the square footages, not about describing where a patio or walkway may be, but just the process, because that doesn't change for your company. And we talked about how that also helps with your standard operating procedures. We also covered not to do lump sum proposals or unit price, but to go with a hybrid, which works off of what we're just looking at here where site work would have one price, demolition a price, hardscape a price, but you're not breaking all of these things up into unit prices, and you're also not taking all the items that are shown up here and giving them one large number. Neither one of those work that well. It doesn't give the opportunity for the clients to really understand the proposal and why things are so expensive. Okay, so we talked about that, as well as making a template, and all of this was so that you could have a template proposal that you're using, where now you just have to include a minimum amount of information, but everything's already written for you, so you'll be able to get your proposals out much quicker, which is a very important part of this entire process. You need to, as one of my friends says, strike while the iron is hot. So the faster you can get back to a customer with a plan that they're happy with a proposal that they're agreeable to, the more likely it is that you're going to sell the job, get them on the schedule, and move on to the next customer. So you want to keep your sales process as tight as possible, and all the things that we're talking about here allow you to do your drawings faster, your proposals faster, so you can get back to your clients faster and make those sales. So today, so that's an overview. Today we're going to talk about doing the deal. All right, so I have up here, it's a walk in the park. Like I said, everything has already been set up, and when you think about sales, most of us tend to think about the sale at that point of purchase where they sign the contract and give us a check. That's not the sale. The sale is everything you've done before that. That's signing the contract, that's fine, that's a step. And then all the things that you're going to do after that is part of the sales process, keeping the customer happy, making sure that things are going as per plan, making sure they're satisfied, because the sales process also includes the fact that you want referrals. All right, so what I'm going to show you is that if you follow these steps, that there's going to be no reason for clients to say, oh, we didn't expect that, we didn't think it was going to be that much, because you already discussed how much it was going to be. They can't say, well, we don't want to do that area, or that wasn't phase one, because they told you that was phase one. So those are taken care of. The TIO is think it over. That's always a common excuse or reason to shoo you out of the house. Oh, we have to think this over for a couple of days or over the weekend. There's nothing for them to think over. It's the plan they wanted, the price they wanted, so there's nothing else for them, an excuse. If you're with a husband and wife, there's no reason for them not to sign then and there, and chances are they will, because they're excited about everything. The drawing is something exciting to look at. The estimate is where they want it to be, and a client, the first time you show them a color rendered drawing, they're going to be so excited the first time that they see that really is the time you want to make the sale. I may have mentioned it in one of my other webinars, but my sales process is very tight, and hopefully you can get to the point where you can do this as well. But I meet with the clients once, again, after screening them on the phone a little bit. While I'm at the house, we go through, walking around the property, and that meeting is to get the design fee. That is the whole focus of it, not the installation whatsoever. So that at that first meeting, I get the design fee. I go right outside and do the site analysis. I start working for them right away. I don't drive away and telling myself that I'll get back to them to that house in a few days. I have everything in my truck that I need to do the site analysis right away. Laser, tapes, wheels, anything, marker, paint. And that helps as well, because people see you're working right away as soon as they gave you a check. All right, so then the next meeting is the sales call. I meet with the plan, I meet with the proposal, because at that second meeting, I want to get them to buy. And I've been doing this a long time, so my plans are usually pretty darn close to what they wanted, and I'm going to show you what I do if I'm off a little bit or they have other ideas. But that second meeting, I roll out that plan, and I'll even show you the techniques to do that. And they're as excited as they're ever going to be. So there's no reason for them not to sign at that second meeting. And if there are some questions or things they want to make changes on, I'll show you how to work around that as well. So really just 2 meetings done, and then we're getting them scheduled, and getting them scheduled so that we could do the work. Oh, sorry. Okay. Present the plan and then the proposal. All right. So it's a simple thought, but it's very important. Your proposal should be in your bag or whatever you're carrying. The plan is what you want to present first. You don't want the proposal on the table. You really should have a folder that it's in, one of those with your business cards. If you had your company logo on the folder, that's actually even better because you're branding yourself as well and showing your professionalism. But I don't want them, I don't want the proposal sitting on the table while I'm presenting the plan because it becomes a little bit of a distraction. And so let's just keep that in your bag, and we'll take it out later on. So you want to present the plan and then the proposal. Okay, so there's some steps that you need to take to prepare for this presentation. You don't just show up at their house and you have a meeting and you're unprepared or you're harried because you're just rushed from somewhere. There's a whole process that you need to go through before you meet with them that after a while it becomes second nature. And what I want to do is show you all the things that you need to do beforehand so that you are prepared for the questions that are going to come up, for the, again, working at their home and what the experience should be like, and how to work with the things that happen at somebody's house. And so I have it broken down into the preparation, the actual presentation, and then the closing. And we're going to go through each one of those steps. And then I have just a couple of questions down there. Obviously, you can't answer. You can answer to yourselves. What is the best day to close? For me, I found that Saturdays, and I think that's a general rule of thumb, that Saturdays are a great day to close your sales because that's a day people want to get things done. Sunday's a day to hang out and relax. During the week, if you're meeting in the evenings, people are pretty well stressed out, from working and dealing with the family. So for me, I found Saturday mornings are the best day to close, get the signed contract. You can't make everybody fit there, but if you can meet people during the week for the design fee meeting, that would be great. Who sits where we're going to get into, because as silly as that sounds, it does matter where your clients sit, and I'll explain why. And then works like magic. I have this thing that I do during the presentation that it makes it even more exciting. It gets the clients really, really into the project, and it's worth doing. And I'll show you, and I'm sure you'll get the idea once I show you the slides. All right. So as far as we're getting into the preparation. All right. Things like calling and confirming the appointment. It's very important to do this, and there's a couple of reasons. The first is that everybody's so busy these days. So if they're forgot about your appointment, this is a reminder of them that you have an appointment. It should be, you should call the day before, or if your office staff makes the call, they should be calling the day before. But it's really just shows, again, professionalism. If they've forgotten about it and they can't meet you, then they'll tell you, that they need to reschedule. You shouldn't be offended by that or worried about that. People need to reschedule sometimes. They're not blowing you off. We all tend to get a little bit too paranoid with things like that. It also, lets them, organize if they have to get a babysitter for the kids, assuming they have children. But it's just a nice technique to do, and it's something, again, that's very, very professional to do. Part of the preparation is, if you're the designer, it typically works better. And what I'd like to say is, for most companies, the designer really should be the person that's doing the presentations and doing the sales, because they know their drawings inside and out. The downside or unfortunate part is that most designers don't like to sell. They tend to enjoy the drawings and tend to like to be in the office more. But if you're a designer, especially if you're design only, or if you're a designer for a design build contractor, you're the best person to make the sale, not a salesperson that works there that doesn't understand why you created the plan that you did. You can only explain so much to them. So if you're not used to doing presentations, you need to practice and you need to learn how to do them, because it's great for job security. First of all, you can be a great designer, but you really need to learn how to present your drawings. And that's all sales is. You're presenting your drawings, and there happens to be a contract and a dollar amount associated with that. And quite honestly, once you get used to talking about big numbers, it makes things much easier. Okay, so if you're the designer, learn how to get out of your shell and do the presentations and the sales as well. So now part of the preparation, you want to review the design, the proposal, and the legalese that's on the back of your proposal, your contract language. You may have finished the design and it might have been a week or so, or like I said, maybe somebody else is presenting your plan. But you want to just review the design, why you came up with the ideas that you did, and be able to present those ideas to your customer. Again, chances are if you designed it, you know why you did everything. And if you don't know why, make sure you have a reason why. Everything that's in my drawings, and probably for most designers, everything on there is for a reason, whether it's the evergreen trees for screening or backdrop, the location of the swimming pool, it's there for a reason. The patio is a certain size for a reason. Every plant on there, every bench, every pot, the lawn areas are all designed, and there's a reason for all of them. And you need to be able to convey those things to your customer, because that gives them confidence in you, and you should be able to present these things confidently. One thing, and I'll talk about as well, is when you're doing these presentations, if this is the ideas that you think work best, then present them as that. If clients are asking you questions about your plans, answer their questions, but explain why you did what you did. I used to, earlier in my career, always, if the customer asked, can you do this instead of this, I'd always say, oh yes, absolutely, we could change that, we could change this. Now, I explain to them, yes, that is a possibility, but let me explain to you why we designed this the way that it's shown on the drawing. And so really, you're then, again, showing your confidence in the reasons why you did everything, and soon the questions will stop and they'll realize that you've thought through everything. I even have customers, when they ask me if I have other plans, if I have other examples of the drawings, and again, they used to frustrate me because I would come with one drawing, and I would say, yes, I have other drawings, but this is the best one of the ideas that I came up with. The other ones I basically took the trace paper and threw it in the garbage. All right, so know your design, the proposal, read through it. Know exactly what is being provided in phase one, and also what's not being provided, because you're showing them this entire master plan that has hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work, but you're only focusing on phase one, which is what they agreed that they wanted to do. So read through the proposal, know what's in it. I've several times, there was confusion between myself and the estimator, and something I thought was part of this proposal, he did not put in the proposal, and I told the client it was included. I found out later it wasn't included, and I had two choices. One was to call the customer back and say, oh, by the way, it's another $3,000. I made a mistake because the stepstones aren't included, or just for the company to eat it, because we have to install it. And it's not a good conversation you want to have with your customer or your boss. You don't want to tell the boss that, hey, you just signed a contract, but right in the beginning there's $3,000 that we're going to have to eat. You also don't want to call a client back and say, hey, I'm really excited about the sale. By the way, the stepstones or this walkway wasn't included. I need another $3,000. So the 5 minutes that you need to review everything so you know what's included, do it. And don't do it in the truck outside or your car outside. Do it when you're in the office and you have a little bit of time just to look through everything. And then the legalese on the back is all of your, what you're responsible for, what you're not responsible for. So you should understand that as best you can. If you have questions on it yourself, you should make sure that you get answers. The clients don't expect you to be an attorney, but they do expect you to know when there's some verbiage in the back that they're not sure of, what that means, and you should be able to answer most of the questions. If there's something you don't know about, don't fake it. Don't try to work through it. Just say, I'm not sure exactly. I don't want to give you incorrect information. And what I'll do is I'll find out, and then I'll give you a call tomorrow and let you know. All right, so prepare. Another thing that you want to do is you want to know your schedule. Okay, because one of the questions that your clients are going to ask is, and it's always a great question, is when can you start? All right, if you say, 3 weeks, but your schedule's out 6 weeks, that's not really what you should be doing. You do want to give a bit of a range because, as we all know, weather is a factor in schedules. But you want to be able to accurately tell them when the job, or when they could expect it to start, a tentative start date. Make sure you let them know it's tentative. I always remind customers, don't stay home that day. Don't take a day off from work. Don't change your whole schedule around, because chances are it's not going to be that day just because other things come up. But you want to give them something to work with. And you also want to let them know you'll give them a call when the job is scheduled to begin a few days ahead of time. You also want to know how long the job is going to take. We all kind of fudge or fake our way through it. But if you have an estimate and proposal, you know how many hours, man-hours, were dedicated to that job. So figure it out before you get there, or talk to your estimator. If you estimate it yourself, know that if it's a 2-man crew, it's a week's worth of work. If it's a 3-man crew, it's going to be 3 days worth of work. Or if it's a bigger project, a month's worth of work. So that you could tell the clients, not going to say 1 to 2 weeks, because you've only estimated it for a 1-week job. All right, so make sure you know that information, because that's a typical question that clients are going to ask you, and you should have that information in your head or readily available. Also, what I put in there, and it doesn't happen that often, but you want to have options. Say something happened between your first meeting and the budget that they potentially had to work with. Somebody had a car accident. They don't have as much money available. Say their budget was $30,000, and they have $5,000 worth of damage, and they need to get it down to $25,000 instead of $30,000. Just have some ideas of what you could cut out of that project, because, like I said, the goal of that second meeting, if you can do it, but the goal of your sales meeting is not to have any reason that you're not getting a signed contract and not getting a deposit from the client. So if they say, we got to knock out $5,000, take a look. Go, we could get rid of the perennials, or since you have the job broken down in in larger chunks, you could look at what makes sense to take out of the project. Maybe there's a patio or a seat wall or something that gets them a little bit closer. Chances are they're going to add it later on, but you just want to be able to do that. You cross that off your proposal, lower the price, because you don't want to say, okay, well, I'm not sure what to do. Let me come back and meet you next week, and we'll look at it again. All right, you're in front of the customer now. You want to get that signed contract. You want to get the deposit. So if you need to send them a clean copy of the contract later on, that's fine. But today we're crossing it out in front of us, and we're getting a check. Okay, a couple of things, and again, it seems, you may think that this is common sense, but you need to be ready, relaxed, and be positive about everything. You can't say no is not a good answer. Clients don't want to hear that. So being relaxed is, if you have to take a few minutes before you enter their house, before the meeting, if you had a bad day up to that point, take a couple of deep breaths, just kind of relax yourself, because your clients, if you're nervous and edgy and negative, that's how your clients are going to experience you, and they're going to start responding that way. If you're relaxed and happy and positive, they're going to respond that way as well. Little thing, take off your shoes. A lot of us are outside working in the dirt or walking in the dirt, and although a homeowner might say, don't take your shoes off, it's okay, it's no big deal, the truth of the matter is it's a big deal. If you've ever walked from the front door to a kitchen and left your little dirt trail along the way, that bothers people. Okay, even though they say it's no big deal, it's a big deal. So take your shoes off. It makes you look great. Make sure you have socks, obviously without holes in them. But just do that. It's a sign of respect. Who sits where? We're gonna look at in a minute, and then start with a little chit chat. as soon as you sit down, don't go right into the design. Talk about something. The weather is always something just very easy. Obviously, politics and religion you stay away from, but just start chit-chatting. You don't want to just start hitting them with your, your sales, even your design, and they'll offer you water or things like that. That's all fine, and that's what you want to do. All right. One of the things that I like to do, and this works like magic, was the statement I had before, and why I have abracadabra. One of the things that I do, so when I meet with the clients and we're at the table, what I do is I take the drawings. I have two drawings. One's believe it or not, a blueprint, and the other one's the color rendered plan. So you'll have a bond copy, and then you'll have a color rendered plan as well. You should have these drawings in a drawing tube. If you don't have one, get a drawing tube. They're like $15, $20. Again, makes you very professional. It protects the drawings. What I do is I lay the unrendered drawing on top of the color drawing. Okay, I'll show you why in a second. And then a very, very important thing is to, when you put the drawings in your tube, roll them backwards. Okay, most of us roll where we're rolling onto the color rendered part of the drawing, or roll them forwards. What you want to do is roll your drawings backwards and then put them in your tube. And the reason for that is when you take them out, instead of them curling onto themselves, they'll be curling out and they'll lay flat on the table. All right, again, it's a simple thing, but if you don't do that, you're going to have to look for salt shakers, a glass of water, anything on the table to pin those corners down. And it takes away from the drawing. You want to keep, especially the color rendered drawing, you want to treat that like a piece of artwork. You don't want handprints on it. You don't want people putting coffee cups. And if your drawing's rolled backwards, you're going to be the one actually doing that. And so make sure you roll them backwards. So I have the drawings in my drawing tube. I lay the plan on the table. They'll see something like this. They'll kind of be excited about it, but don't really understand what they're getting. I'm meanwhile just looking at I'm in my bag, taking out a notepad, and then what I do is I put this, the drawings on there. They're kind of smiling, and then I always apologize. I say, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me show you the real drawing," and then underneath is the color rendered plan. So what I do is unveil the color rendered plan by taking away the blueprint that's on the top. And now they see something like this. Now their eyes pop out of their head. It's so much more impressive. If you just took the drawing out of a tube, laid it on the table, you're showing everything right away. They're going to be excited about it, but this is, again, some theatrics. It's all pre-planned. I freely admit it, but it really, just let's look. From that, they're looking at it, going, "Oh, that's interesting," to now unveiling the drawing and seeing something like that. Okay, so it's a little trick. Maybe get the other things, figured out how to do it, but this is really just a great way to get them even more excited. All right, some of the things that you, when you're doing the presentation, all right, and this is along the same lines as when we talked about the proposal. You want to present the experience, not the materials. You don't want to talk about how much QP or how many square quarry process or base material or how much gravel. They don't care about that. They don't care how many yards of concrete that you're using or how many pallets or tons of stone. They want to know what the experience is going to be like sitting on their patio near their retaining wall or playing golf, with the golf area that you put in with their own little tee. You want to talk to them about how much fun it's going to be barbecuing or swimming, and talk about the experience as you're talking about the plan itself. Stay away from the materials. We care about that. Our clients don't. All right. So make sure you're focusing on the overall experience. You can talk about some of the materials, but more of like the bluestone or the pavers, how they're tumbled and they're going to really work with the stone on the house, and they're going to love it. Again, everything always positive, very, very happy. You don't have to be crazy excited, but just be positive about it. Okay. Oop. I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. Okay. So we have the plan, the master plan. even with this, what you want to do is not jump all over the place. You want to talk about big concepts, and you want to work in a circular motion. I tend to work from the front yard, work my way around to the sides and then into the back. Sometimes I start on the side yard. But you want to not jump all over the place. Like this plan we're looking at, there's a driveway to the left, there's a new deck, there's a swimming pool and patio, new walkway, plantings. If you follow a flow, I go clockwise when I do my presentations. So if you want to go, I don't know if it's because I'm lefty or because clockwise is easier, but you want to present in one direction. Okay, so it's clockwise, counterclockwise, that's fine. So here's the master plan. So now you're talking about, we're on the left side of the house now. We can talk about the driveway. That was something that was actually phase one and one of the biggest priorities for them. So I'll talk about that area, how we're doing a paver border, what that looks like, Belgian block curbing to control the flow of the water and it's a more sophisticated look. Some of the plantings for screening and how I'm creating an entry experience. This is where the designer and design speak really works well. The entry experience onto your driveway. Most people just pull in their driveway. Talk about the pillars, some of the textures and colors of the plantings. It's going to feel very warm and colorful when you first enter. Now I'm working my way around to the back of the house, so where the deck is, and I have some evergreens up top that are arborvitae, and it's labeled somewhere. But you could also see, as we talked about the unbiddable plan, I have holly, I have butterfly bush. I don't have quantities, I don't have sizes. So if you have butterfly bush, there's obviously 3 plants that are there. The birch tree, there's 1 that's there. The azalea, there are 3. So somebody can take this drawing and bid on it, but they need to count everything that's on there and then assign the sizes that they think the client wants to use. Work our way around to now the back right corner. This was an existing pool that I had to work with. That's why there's a patio extension. They made the patio too small. But again, I'm talking about how this will be great. You can see your children. While you're up on the deck, you have a beautiful or a very unblocked view down to the swimming pool. So you don't have to be sitting right down there. If the kids are older, 10 and up, you don't need to be that close, but you want to always be within eyesight of them. Look how we have the shed for all of your furniture. You can store all of that. The equipment won't be an eyesore. We have all this plantings and lots of color around the patio, but it's not a lot of maintenance. So talking about the experience, and again, that they could have people over, and now with the extended patio, because I know they have a large family that's nearby, they have a lot more room for barbecues. Then to the lawn area. So there's a nice flow. If you look from the swimming pool and then you go down, here's the open lawn area, relates really well to the swimming pool. The kids can run out of the pool, play around, in the yard. Again, they're screened. They're all fenced in, so you don't have to worry about them running onto the road. Lots of seasonal color, lots of privacy, easy flow around the entire property. And you're talking about the experience. You're getting them all excited about all of the ideas. This is their dream plan. Again, they're not doing everything that's on here, but you want to present the overall dream plan because they love it. They absolutely are so thrilled and so excited. Okay, so as part of your presentation, so you went through the plan and reviewed everything, and without getting too much into the materials, one thing that contractors do sometimes, and much more than they should, is you have to always remind yourself you're there for your customer. You want to focus on them. You want to have a conversation. As you're talking to them, you want to show that they're people and you're people. But too many times, contractors, and an example I have was somebody I worked with, it was around Halloween, and the clients, the husband and wife, were talking about what their kids were going to be for Halloween, and what their costumes were, and then the contractor I was with talked about what his kids were going to be, but then he kept going on. He should have just said, my son's going to be a pumpkin and my daughter's going to be a princess, or if you wanted to get specific what type of pumpkin or princess, that would have been fine. but then he should have said, jump right back to them and go, oh, those sound really cute. But instead what he did was he talked about what he does for Halloween and how he does pumpkin carving with his kids and how they first start on one street or they drive to a friend's house about it. And you could see the customers are smiling, but they're like, I don't really, I care about you, but I don't really care, about your Halloween experience. All right, so enough conversation about yourself that, they know you're a person, you have kids or something that's relatable, but you're there for your clients. And always remember that and to always focus on them. Along those same lines, during your presentations, don't complain about anything. Your employees, and you think this sounds ridiculous, but I've worked with contractors and I've written articles with contractors that tell their customers, about their employees they just started and how horrible they are. Meanwhile, the customer's like, well, they're working at my house, I don't want horrible people working at my house. Don't complain about customers because they know they're going to be the next one down the line that you're going to complain about. So again, everything positive. Leave your baggage outside the house and pick it up later on when you leave. All right, so present the proposal in order and always refer to the plan. All right, so now that we've gone through the plan, now what you want to do is take out the proposal, make enough copies, make sure you have a minimum of 3, one for yourself, one for the husband, and one for the wife, because you don't want to you don't want to pass it to the husband and insult the wife. You don't want to give it to the wife and insult the husband. So just make copies for everybody. If they only want to look at one, they'll give one back to you. All right, so now you're going to present your proposal on the phase of the work. You could say, well, we've looked at the entire master plan, but now, point to the area that you're going to be discussing. The rear patio or the drawing I just showed you, the driveway area. Here's the driveway, Belgian block, plantings, the plantings that are going to be around. So you want to now, you have your proposal, now you're going back and forth. You're going through everything that's on the proposal. You're saying the numbers. Don't be afraid of numbers. Everyone knows these things cost something. So phase 1 is we have some site work to do. We have to rip out your old driveway. There's some railroad ties in an old existing wall. That's number 1. That's, $3,850. Then go on to the next thing. We're going to excavate. We need to get rid of some material, or let's say we're not. We're just doing the hardscape. So the next thing is the hardscape for the driveway, the pavers, and the paver apron and the Belgian block. Or maybe the Belgian block is separated out. You're going to talk about what that is and how much that is. You're going to say that number. The driveway is $8,950 and the Belgian block is $2,900. Okay, so you're going to do that now for every aspect of the plan and the phase 1. Again, don't let them throw that question out there. When they say, "Oh, this looks great," but how much for the entire plan? And you just say, "I'm not sure. We're focusing on this. Let's work with this. I'd have to sit down and call my vendors and figure out all the labor. But for now, let's look at phase 1. We could add these other things as we go along." All right. So you've gone through your presentation of the plan. You've reviewed everything in order on the on your proposal. They're very comfortable with everything. There's no reason for them to have to think it over. And now what you want to do is you want a signature and you also want a deposit. All right, so there are things that you can do here that, again, are good moves and bad, what we call bad money moves. Ask them if they have any questions. You've gone through all of this. Here's a lot of information. If they're asking you questions as you go along, answer the questions as they go along. When you're all finished with your presentation, do you have any questions? Is there anything I did not explain? Is there something you're not sure about? And if they have questions, you just keep answering the questions. If it's something you have to take notes on, take notes on. You also want to, just the way you want to talk about how much each phase or each stage costs, you want to talk about the payment schedule. That should be in your proposal. You should know what it is, and you should review it. As you know, we just need a 10% deposit, 30% a week before the job starts, and we'll let you know when that's going to be. And once again, ask them if they have any questions on that. If there's anything they're not sure of. So review all of the your payment schedule. All right. Now there's a couple of things that also when you're talking about money that are bad money moves, and also money isn't funny. Never joke about money. Never, never. Okay. It never comes out right. You can't say things like, of course you can afford it, or you should do more. Look at all the lovely stuff in your house. You don't joke around about money. You really shouldn't do it with friends either. It just doesn't go well. Okay. Let's see. Okay. The bad deposit moves are somebody wrote you a check, typically a pretty sizable check, and they signed the contract. Don't take the check and look at it, snap it up in the air, like go woohoo, or like show any sort of like excitement that you finally got it. Don't take the check and put it in your shirt pocket, or don't fold it up and put it in your wallet. Okay, it doesn't feel right when you're taking the money and sticking it in your wallet, whether you own a company or not. What I do is I take the copy of the proposal that they signed, of the 3 copies. I have them sign 2. I have paper clips. I paper clip it to it, and then I put it in my bag. I don't do it as soon as they give me the money. I do that at the very end. So have some paper clips, or if you want to have your own folder, but it should be something, it's simple, just put it in your bag along with the proposal. And then once again, ask them if they have any questions on anything. Also, when they do give you the check, that's on the signed contract, you just leave it there. You don't need to grab it. You don't need to, that shouldn't be the last step in your process, is getting paid and then going out. You're like, okay, thank you very much for the check, for the signed contract. I appreciate it. Let me tell you about what happens next. You'll get a phone call. It'll be from me, or it'll be from somebody from the office. Let them know that you're going to have a mark out done, so there are going to be little flags and orange and yellow paint on their front yard. Not to worry about that. That's all part of it. If you have to look at pavers with them, schedule a time to go and look at pavers with them. So don't make the transaction the last step. Make sure that you keep going and keep discussing things until they have no more questions for you. Okay, so this is what we just talked about. So review the project and the process, who to contact. You're always available. Let them know that. Give them your cell phone number. And then once everything's completely finished and it's time to leave, make sure you leave. What I mean by that is sometimes contractors will sit out in the car and they'll call the office. They're very excited, or they'll call their spouse or whoever it is. And you don't want to be sitting outside the customer's home on your phone with the interior light on, kind of reviewing everything. Get in the car. I don't care if you go to a parking lot somewhere and then you have to make some phone calls, do that, but just don't do it in front of your customer's house. Okay, so we have just about 5 minutes left, so I want to leave this open to some questions. So I have some other pictures, but we can't get to that, so I'm going to pass it back over to Joe.
Yeah, Jody, you can leave your screen there, but I do have a couple questions that came up from some of our users. For construction takeoffs with subcontractors, would you create a takeoff with square footage in cubic yards for the sub that is different than what you'd present to the customer? And also, does that get added to the plan after the sale for the construction team?
It depends what it's a great question. It depends what your business model is. If you're designing you're using subcontractors, you're obviously going to have to provide them with some information, especially if it comes to retaining walls and the heights of the retaining walls. But pavers, patios, hardscape areas, they should be able to go right off of your drawings to make the measurements. You could have a discussion of the type of paver. You could have a discussion of how you want them to prepare the base. But yeah, if you're working with subcontractors, you need to give them a little more information, but still not beyond elevations. there's not a heck of a lot more that you need to give them. If you want to help them out and do some of the calcs for them, that's up to you, but I tend to lay everything off on the contractors. If you're, a design only, it's, and other people, or you design build and other people, they're going to be giving the drawings to other contractors to bid on, that's where the lack of information works in your favor, because it makes it hard for people to give accurate proposals, although they still can do it.
Great, thanks for that. We also had Nathan Jensen is asking what the handheld laser that you use for measuring grades.
Yeah, that was the name of it. I can, when I have all the answers, that was one of the questions that you sent me last time. I don't have it. I don't have it in front of me. It's in my truck, but I will write down exactly what I use and the brand of it as well. So I'll make sure I get that to you. Or if he wants to send me an email directly, to jshilan@gmail.com, and I'll get the information later today or tomorrow.
Sherry French has a question. She wants to know what happens if you still get you've got to think about it from the client during the meeting. Do you just collect a check for the remainder of the design fee and tell them that you'll get back in touch with them within a few days?
I mean, that wouldn't be the first step that I would take. This is where you need to push a little bit but not be pushy. If they say, we need to think this over, you go, oh, I completely understand. What are some of your concerns, or what are some of the things you want to think over? And they'll say, well, we're not sure about, whatever it is, if the patio's too big or not. So I completely understand. You know what? Why don't we sign the paperwork, get the deposit so that we can get you on the schedule, and then what I'll do is I'll paint out the patio on the ground before we do it, and we'll confirm all of the measurements for you. So if that's a concern, we could always reduce the scope of work. If you think it needs to be smaller, let's look at it, because I like to paint things out anyway to confirm all that information. But you don't want to let them get out that easily with that. If they have another concern, then manage that concern. All right, and eventually and hopefully you'll be able to take care of those, because your goal is to get that deposit and get that signed contract. And let them know, you know what, we can be flexible. We can figure stuff out later on, but we want to get you on the schedule. And the schedule that's a very important point to push. That was hard to say. Because people want to get on the schedule. They want to get done sooner rather than later. And if these things are going to delay the process and push them out to the summer or the fall, that's a great way of kind of keeping them on point.
Great. One more question before we go. Mark Sellis, Ken Hoffman, and Nate Jordan are all asking about when you mentioned seating arrangements during the presentation. What about like who sits where, and how do you arrange that?
Thank you for bringing that up. It was on my list, and then I mentioned it twice, and I never talked about it. So thank you very much. What you want to do is when you're sitting at the table, I like to have both the husband and the wife sitting together on the opposite side of the table, so that you're on one side, the plan's on the table, and then you're facing them. I also, if possible, like to orient the drawing the way that the property is oriented, or at a minimum at least show the plan to them. You could read it upside down. That's no big deal. You want to have all of the words facing them. And so you're sitting across from them, and what it allows you to do, and the important point I want to make was, you don't want them sitting on the sides of you or on the same side of you, because what happens is now you have to keep turning your head left or right to talk to the husband and wife, and you also have to make sure that you're giving each one of them enough, talk time. And what you wind up doing is you're turning your head back and forth so much, you're getting dizzy, you're getting disoriented. So if you can have them sit across from you, or even catty corner, where you're on one side of the table, somebody's at the end, and then somebody's across from you, that works as well. So, but typically, if you can get them across from each other. And another thing, let them clean off the table. You want them, the drawing that you put down, you want to treat that like it's a piece of artwork, which it really is. You want it pristine. You don't want, one of the reasons not to put the salt and pepper shakers or a cup of coffee on it is you want them to feel that that's something they can't touch, and that's one of the qualities of the drawings. So yeah, just organize it, and even ask them if they're sitting next to you. Go, you know what, this works better. If I can sit on one side, it's easier for me to present it to you. Don't just accept where they sit, and they'll go, okay, I understand, that's great, and thank you for bringing that up.
Great. Well, that brings us to the end of the third webinar in the three-part series. Jody, I'd really like to thank you for putting this together. Marisa, I'd like to thank you and Landscape Management Magazine for facilitating all of this, and Dynascape has been very happy to participate, and I hope that we can come up with another webinar series to offer in the future.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Joe, very much. Marisa, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And, Joe will take the questions, and I promise to answer every one of them. So thank you, everybody, for your time, and I hope you have a great year.